required technical skills in the county budget and audit process. In order to meet the financial demands of both manual on budget operations and internal audit training, specifically to work with their counterparts on the fiscal decentralization process courtesy of the AFDB. Some of the key findings of the tour included shortage of guidelines for internal expenditure controls at the county government levels. We endeavor to create strong linkages between central and local government. Kenya grant of 35 million to strengthen the capacity of the county governments to not only respond better to constitutional requirements, but also improve on the management of public funds. Consultants with fiscal decentralization skills in budgeting and published Kenya's first ever user manual on budget operations and internal audit training specifically
on TV as
how the strategies not CS, PS, focused on
by Mr. Philip Domo on the that's the internal auditor general. So you'll be presenting the manual on internal audit training. So Mr. Domo, please.
Have since reported back in our department, or some have been recruited by some counties. However, the National Treasury continues to receive requests from county governments for secondment of more internal audit staff. These requests are being reviewed in the context of availability of staff. The need for building institutional oversight on public financial management at county governments had earlier been flagged as a key priority during our initial risk assessment of county governments. We also, through support by African Development Bank, carried out a mock audit in 10 counties that was in January 2014, which had been selected on random basis. The lessons and experiences we learned from the mock audit required an action to be done on a more sustainable basis. Indeed, it is a...
And between that and also having training for budget training for county officials, we, I think in the end ended up direct interact with about 131 county officials in a classroom when we were doing our budget training at the Kenya School of Government. And all of that was all towards making sure that this manual, as much as possible, addressed the needs as... The manual, basically, just to give a very quick update of what the manual is addressing. The budget manual, the budget operational manual, goes to great lengths to give details about how to compile the county integrated development plan, how to compile the county budget review and output paper, or the key part of the budget manual. He's gone to a lot of pain, a lot of detail on how to go about compiling a budget using the program-based budgeting framework that is now mandatory for all county and all, indeed I would say all governments in this country. So this budget manual has been compiled basically to give as much as possible a step-by-step process for doing these things as a county government. And because we see it as a living document.
Transition Authority to recommend the necessary measures required to ensure that the national and county governments have adequate capacity during the transition time to ensure that they undertake the functions assigned to them. The Transition Authority plays the main role in facilitating the development. The Transition Authority played a main role in the development of the initial interim 2013 budgets as was required by law. It also played a further role in the preparation of the 2013-14 county budgets. It was also instrumental in functions based on the realistic assumptions on the cost of the functions that are both being transferred to the county governments and the ones that have been left at the national government according to the constitution. This process of costing of functions, once complete, will be used to inform the future, and that's why we have worked closely with the Public Finance Reform Secretariat to ensure that the manuals are finalized and ready for implementation. The Transition Authority appreciates having been in the steering committee to oversee the increased budgets and attain the highest possible internal audit levels. Meanwhile, the Transition Authority will continue to play its role of coordinating and facilitating the transition to ensure that the county governments have the adequate capacity necessary to uptake the devolved functions. We look forward.
However, referring to the latest report from the Controller of Budget for the period ending June 2014, we take keen note of the mixed performance by the various counties. While it's clear that the absorptive capacity on the recurrent contribution to Kenya's overall development financing need is indeed relatively small compared to the country's needs. However, we wish to think that our support has been both strategic and catalytic and has helped to mobilize funds in addition to our own resources from the ADB and ADF windows. As you will recall, we have recently requested Treasury for an additional pipeline of projects potentially to be funded from the extended ADB credit facility, the Africa 50 facility and the Africa Growing Together facilities. These funds will avail additional resources to infrastructure and non-infrastructure projects in Kenya. Ladies and gentlemen, to this end, the East Africa Resource Center brings potential financiers together. The bank.
Good morning. Our chief guest, Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury, Mr. Henry Rotich. We were expecting Governor from Algeria, Ahmed Abdullahi, but I understand he's been delayed somewhere. At county level, the assistance from the African Development Bank was therefore very timely and handy. The key elements of the project were included the following. One, technical assistance, in which we brought on board 2 consultants to develop the manuals both for the budget as well as for the internal audit. There was also the training component of county audit and budget personnel. 220 officers drawn from the county government's Office of the Controller of Budget and the National Treasurer were trained using these instruments. This training was carried out in conjunction. The objective in undertaking this project is to ensure that skills and knowledge transfer ultimately accrue to the Mwananchi through better services. I would therefore urge those who participated in the training and the others who will use these manuals to use this knowledge for the betterment of the welfare of their constituents. The manuals are designed to give on-the-job application skills.
As you may be aware, the government launched the Public Financial Management Reforms Strategy and 23 pillars in the strategy. As you will also recall, the Constitution in 2010 offer more opportunities for public participation in the decision-making process, which in turn contributes to improved allocation of resources, making also service faster and responsive, and ultimately leads to improvement of the welfare of the people. I wish to emphasize that the National Treasury is committed in playing its role to ensure the success of development functional. Nevertheless, significant progress has already been done, and while at the same time ensuring that is supported by the internal audit function in providing risk assurance and system control. Let me highlight that the
Cabinet Secretary, I think you know why we are here today. We are launching two important documents. That's the County Budget Operational Manual and the National Internal Audit Training Manual, which we have developed with support from our development partners, especially the Africa Development Bank. So my role here today is just to conduct that process, and we will start with short presentations about the two manuals, just to give you a sense of what is contained in them. And I think the first one will be presented by Mr. Philip Ndungu on the that's the Internal Auditor General. So you'll be presenting the manual on internal audit training. So Mr. Ndungu, please.
Aimed at giving county governments time to set operational systems and recruit their own internal audit personnel. Majority of those who have been seconded have since reported back to internal audit department, while some have been recruited by some counties. However, the National Treasury continues to receive requests from county governments for secondment of more internal audit staff. These requests are being reviewed in the context of availability of staff. The need for building institutional oversight on public financial management at county governments had earlier been flagged as a key priority during our initial risk assessment of county governments. We also, through support by African Development Bank, carried out a mock audit in 10 counties. That was in January 2014, which had been selected on random basis. The results and experiences we learned from the mock audit required an action to be done on a more sustainable basis. Indeed, it is the mock audit initiative which led to the need for a training manual focusing specifically on accountability challenges facing county governments. Let me just give you a brief overview of the manual, just to have a feel of what it is all about. The manual has been aligned with the best international practices in the context of the International Professional Practice for Internal Auditors. Careful alignment with the PFM Act and the draft PFM regulations has been done. Also, experiences by internal audit department in mainstreaming modern internal audit methodologies and techniques, including risk-based and IT-supported audits, have been included. The lessons and experiences we learned from the internal auditors initially seconded to county governments have also been taken into account. And even more importantly, Buenos Aires, every effort has been done to make the manual more reader-friendly and practical oriented, so as to make it achieve the purpose for which it is intended. Going forward, detailed guidelines to operationalize the internal audit policies and principles in the manual will be prepared separately, and the World Bank has expressed willingness to support this initiative through the Public Sector Accounting Standards Board. Intensive sensitization workshops for county internal audit staff will need to be done as part of continuous strategy to sharpen their skills. Internal Audit Department will spearhead the development of a strategy to ensure that the messages in the manual are mainstreamed and institutionalized. We therefore look forward to working together with all the stakeholders to make this initiative helpful in building institutional capacity on public financial management in the county governments. And there ends my presentation. Thank you very much.
Mr. Wohoro Doho, who is representing Onderi Ontweka, who is not able to present. Sorry about that, Madam Hongo.
Particularly gratifying to visit, we visited 9 counties, that was Kirinyaga, Mombasa, Isiolo, Garissa, Machakos, Nairobi, Turkana, to Kisumu, and Kakamega. And what was really interesting about visiting as part of the preparation for compiling the budget manual was to ensure that whatever we put together as a manual was relevant to the grassroots needs and the challenges that our counties were facing. So we visited these counties and collected views. I think in the end we ended up interviewing about 239 individuals from 31 organizations. And between that and also having training for budget training for county officials, we I think in the end ended up direct interact with about 131 county officials in the classroom when we were doing our budget training at the Kenya School of Government. And all of that was all towards making sure that this manual, as much as possible, addressed the needs and challenges as experienced at the ground level. In the classroom training, for example, at the Kenya School of Government, we conducted focus groups from the participants and gave an opportunity to look through the manual and raise concerns, raise issues that was clearly not relevant. And from that, we got to then use that feedback to ensure the manual spoke to the needs on the ground. Some of the lessons learned, of course, is that one is the counties are desperate for help in building this capacity, by which their own capacity is built. And because we have a manual now that is local and residing in the county, that would this exercise would be a way of making sure that that happens. Of course, there's another issue we found interesting was the whole question of seconded staff and the need, of course, over time to make sure that this was replaced with permanent staff. I think there's an issue of substantive office holders not being in place. Since then, I'm happy to report that we've had feedback that a lot of that filling of positions with substantive office holders has happened. The manual basically, just to give a very quick update of what the manual addresses, the budget manual, the budget operational manual, goes to great lengths to give details about how to compile the county integrated development plan, how to compile the county budget review and output paper, how to compile and put together the county fiscal strategy paper. There's a whole extensive chapter on public participation in the budget process, and we've taken a lot of time, for example, to address the issue of budget and economic forum that the governor is expected to put in place under the Public Financial Management Reform, Public Financial Management Act 2012. And then then there's what we call the key part of the budget manual, is we've got a lot of pain and a lot of detail on how to go about compiling a budget using the program-based budgeting framework that is now mandatory for all county and all, indeed I would say all governments in this country. So this budget manual has been compiled basically to give as much as possible a step-by-step process for doing these things as a county government. And because we see it as a living document, we also see it as an opportunity, as this is really the first of what we expect to be revisions as the county financial fiscal decentralization unfolds in the counties. So by no means do we see this as a document that is stark or set in concrete. It needs to be living, it needs to be dynamic. And so with this opportunity to launch this module, we just want to commend your support. We thank you for the support we've received from your department in very real sense. And also we particularly want to thank the counties who are represented here for their fantastic candor in participating in this budget manual. I cannot overemphasize just how important and useful it has been to get the county officials standing up and saying, this chapter doesn't make sense. What do you mean by this phrase? Could you expand on it? Some things here are illegal. If we had a situation, someone said, this is unconstitutional. And you see, you need that sort of feedback because you want to make sure that the document we ended up with is a document that is, one, constitutional, but one that speaks to the needs of the counties. So thank you very much, and I commend the manual to you. Thank you.
Madam Angelina Hongo, Deputy Chair of Transitional Authority, to make a few remarks.
Cabinet Secretary, National Treasury, Director, ADB, Principal Secretary, National Treasury, all protocols observed. As you have been told, my name is Angeline Hongo. I'm here representing the Chairman of the Transition Authority, Mr. Kinuthia Omwangi, who is in Eldoret on an official work. Let me start by saying that the development of a uniform county budgeting and auditing framework and template for training is critical during this transition time. This is because it is the period when the counties are developing their structures and systems, and ideally the most appropriate phase for best practices to be developed and entrenched in the counties. The Transition Authority is mandated to facilitate, to coordinate, and make recommendations on issues relating to transition to the devolved system of government in accordance to Section 7 of the Transition to Devolved Government Act. More specifically, Section 7 requires the Transition Authority to recommend the necessary measures required to ensure that the national and county governments have adequate capacity during the transition time to ensure that they undertake the functions assigned to them. The Transition Authority plays the main role in facilitating the development. The Transition Authority played a main role in the development of the initial interim 2013 budgets as was required by law. It also played a further role in the preparation of the 2013-14 county budgets. It was also instrumental, together with the former Ministry of Planning, in the development of the CIDPs that the counties have put in place. The authority, in collaboration with the Office of the Auditor General, is also currently involved in the process of preparing an inventory of national and county government assets and liabilities, which will therefore, thereafter, we will undertake a verification and audit of the assets and liabilities. Another critical task that the authority is undertaking is the costing of functions based on the realistic assumptions on the cost of the functions that are both being transferred to the county governments and the ones that have been left at the national government according to the Constitution. This process of costing of functions, once complete, will be used to inform the future allocation of resources to the counties and to the national government. The Transition Authority recognizes the importance of fiscal decentralization in its totality, and that's why we have worked closely with the Public Finance Reform Secretariat to ensure that the manuals are finalized and ready for implementation. The Transition Authority appreciates having been in the steering committee to oversee the implementation of this project funded by the African Development Bank. The TA appreciates the support extended to the National Treasury and the devolution process at large by the African Development Bank to help in the preparation of the two manuals and so as to support the counties in the fiscal decentralization. The TA, together with the PFMR, the Internal Auditor General's Office, coordinated most of the activities, one of them being the mock audit, whose findings have been disseminated to the 10 counties, and a presentation has also been made on that. At the moment, we have a working team comprising TA, Internal Audit General, and the PFMR, and we are working on modalities towards the implementation of the recommendation made by the mock review report. The county budget operation manuals has been prepared through a consultative process and will provide the basis for county governments to prepare proper budgets as required by law. It will help provide coordinated capacity building of the county officers on planning, budgeting, budget execution, and accounting for the devolved funds as well as the local revenues. The internal audit manual, on the other hand, will help the county government strengthen the internal audit function and set as a mechanism for training. Therefore, the launch of these manuals is extremely timely, especially at a time when counties are facing challenges in regards to adequate budgeting, audit queries in procurement, and absorption of funds, among other issues. The manuals will provide a guideline that allows the county staff to comply with various duties and procedures as required by law. They are therefore an important component in the optimal operationalization of the county governments. As I end my remarks, I wish to request county governments to budget adequately and set up elaborate, transparent, and efficient audit processes using the manuals that are being launched. They should also endeavor to ensure that the expenditures comply with the approved county budgets and attain the highest possible internal audit levels. Meanwhile,